All right, so today in science, we're doing a quick update of where we are on our science project, what should have already been completed, and what the future holds in store for you. So, starting on your science project notebook, you should have all of the due dates written on the first page of the table of contents. If you do not, you need to pause and go back and write all those due dates. You'll notice that they don't all necessarily go in sequential order, and that's okay. This is what you need to go by when looking at due dates rather than the order that the book is in. All right, moving forward, your project question. This is the main part of your science experiment. This is what your question is, and it needs to have a comparison of something. It needs to be a measurable comparison of something. I wonder which plant will grow taller, the one that is watered daily or the one that is not watered daily. So that needs to be written down here at the bottom. Once again, that should have already been signed off on. That was actually due January 26th. All right, moving on, your project research, your goal is to have 3 terms and those terms defined. That should have been done by February 2nd. Once again, if it's not been done yet, don't panic. Just go ahead and get that done now. Now, the terms need to be things that pertain directly to your science experiment. For example, in my plant experiment, I would probably choose hydration as one of my terms, and then I would define it because it is all about hydration and how much hydration the plant receives. The research is a paragraph about your experiment, and once again, this is some background information. This is not a paragraph about what you are doing for your science experiment, but rather a background about your topic. For instance, regarding hydration that a plant needs to grow and what makes a plant grow. All right, your hypothesis is your I think statement. It is your educated guess. I think the plant that is not watered will grow taller than the plant that is watered. Once again, this is not something that necessarily is going to be correct. You can prove or disprove your hypothesis either way, but it needs to start with I think. And you will get this, you will come up with this conclusion based on the research that you've already done. This, once again, was due on February 2nd. So if it has not yet been done, you need to do that now. All right, I'm going to skip over the project research. As I said, it's not necessarily in sequential order. The next page, it says project experiment, and this is your materials. This is where you list everything you need, and you really need to think everything out. In my plant experiment, I'm going to need a plant. I'm going to need a measuring cup because I'm going to have to measure how much water I give the one plant. I'm going to have a tape measure so I can measure how tall the plant is going, and of course, I'm going to need the water. All right, now this is the meat of your experiment. This is where you're going to write out the steps, exactly what you are going to do to conduct your experiment. First, second, third, fourth. I would actually do it, I would number it first, second, third. Don't leave anything out. All right, going back to this experiment. This is going to be due on Wednesday the 14th, and this is where you're going to look at your variables, your independent, your dependent, and your controlled variables. This is something we will discuss in class on Wednesday, but basically, the independent variable is the one thing that will change. The dependent is not going to be changed, and the controlled is going to stay the same throughout the experiment. The dependent variable in my example is going to be the height of the plants. The controlled variables are going to be the plants and the place where they are placed. For example, they're going to have to get the same amount of sun. The independent variable is the only thing that's going to change. That's going to be the water because we're going to change the amount of water given in my experiment. Alright, now the rest of this is not due until after the experiment has been conducted or while the experiment is going to be conducted. You've got a page where you can record your observations. Here's your data. This is where I would record each day how tall each plant was as well as how much water was given to each plant or not given to each plant. And then the results. Once again, this is where you're going to put your table, your chart, your graph. This is going to be your conclusion, what it's going to look like when you finish and you post it on your project board. This is going to be where it's written out, your grand conclusion. The plant that did not receive any water grew 2 inches taller than the plant that received the water, for example. And then your conclusion, your main question, going back to the beginning, will a plant grow taller if it has water or if it does not have water? Was my hypothesis correct? Did the plant that did not receive water grow taller? And how would I improve it? This is where if your hypothesis was not correct, you'll go back and you'll say you could do it again, and this time you could change your hypothesis. Now, on this page, this is what your presentation is going to look like. This needs to be at school with all of your materials on the 26th because our big science fair is going to be on the 27th. So this is an example of what yours will look like. You will need the tri-fold board. We will have some available if you don't have some, but they do have some colorful ones that you might want to get for yourself. We'll go over this more next week and find out who will need one. This is the abstract, your summary, if you will. And this is the score sheet. You are going to score it, and you are going to have some teachers score it, some visitors are going to come in and score it, and over here you're going to have some peers, some other classmates score it. And then your final reflection will be at the conclusion, what you liked about it, what you didn't like, what you would do differently, what you thought of the deadline, so on and so forth. So that is the overview of the science project. You need to make sure that all of your due dates have been met up until this point, and start preparing to conduct your experiment.